This video was originally live streamed with Ryan's Patreon subscribers and YouTube members. If you would like more videos like this, please consider becoming a Patreon subscriber or YouTube member today. Links are in the show notes. Thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoy.
While our government's official position is not to speculate on this subject, we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.
What's up, guys? Welcome to all of our Patreon subscribers and YouTube members. If you are joining us tonight, we are doing a very special live stream watch along just for you guys. I thought this would be a really cool way to get our Patreon community, our YouTube members community together so that we can just have some fun. On March 13th, we are on the 28th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights incident today. That's right. The Phoenix Lights incident happened 28 years ago today, if you can believe it. Man, that makes me feel old. But yeah, what I thought we would do tonight, guys, is we're going to do a watch along. Now, I've never done one of these before without getting a copyright strike. So we'll see how this goes. This video is unlisted on YouTube because it is private. It is only for you guys, those watching. So if you are watching, let us know in the chat. I'd love to know who's here with us. Hello, Ashley. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, let me know before we get to this watch along of what we're going to be watching, which I should probably also mention. Thank you. Thank you to all of my Patreon subscribers. Thank you to my YouTube members. I honestly, I'm not, this is not hyperbole. I could not do what I do without you guys. This streaming service I use, the podcast audio hosting websites, all of the art images that I make, all the videos I produce, all of these things are done through software, and I have to pay for all of that. The microphones, everything costs money. All these unforeseen costs that people just don't know about when they get, a free podcast every week or a free live stream, usually every Sunday. So this is all because of you guys. So thank you. Honestly, thank you. And this is a very, very small way that I want to give back to you guys. We will do more of this sort of stuff. Suzanne, who is in the chat with us tonight, she'll be moderating. We discussed possibly having our Patreon subscribers and YouTube members come on with us for a live stream at one point. We can pick one topic and just talk about it, for an hour or something like that. I think that would be a lot of fun. But what we're going to be doing tonight with you guys is, for those who may not know, I was on a television series on the CW network in the United States called Mysteries Decoded. Now, it was a really cool show. It started as a 1-hour special on the Roswell incident. Now, at the time, the CW network was coming out with their reboot of the Roswell TV show. Do you guys remember that from like the late 90s, early 2000s? It was a fictional show, kind of like a love story, very CW-esque, about, the aliens that crash in Roswell, and they end up assuming human identities in Roswell. They fall in love, all that teen sort of drama stuff. Well, they rebooted it not too long ago. And what they wanted to do is for any of the viewers watching the reboot of this fictional Roswell story, they wanted to catch people up on the actual Roswell UFO incident. So they put together a 1 hour special, and it featured myself and a former Navy veteran, Jennifer Marshall, who you're going to be seeing a lot of tonight. And her and I were co-investigative partners, and we went out and investigated the Roswell UFO incident. And what was really cool, really, really cool about that is when the fictional Roswell show premiered, they had me come to Hollywood and in front of like Amblin Entertainment, Steven Spielberg's company, the CW, all their affiliates, all these big wig Hollywood execs and industry people. They had me give a 1 hour lecture to these people about the Roswell incident. So I had to like dig back into my UFO conference days, but I was not giving a lecture for those who know about the incident. I was giving it to these people who could have cared less about it. They just wanted to be there for the premiere of the fictional show. But I will tell you right now, after my lecture, I had so many of these people. One of Steven Spielberg's assistants actually came up to me and said, "Thank you. That was mind blowing. That was so amazing." And you know, I got to meet like the cast of the show, and I think I have it here on YouTube. I got to quiz them all on the Roswell incident, which was really cool. So that it was a lot of fun. But all that being said, after that 1 hour special, the show got picked up for an actual season. The CW, the ratings were through the roof for the show, and they said, "We want to make a series out of this." So Jennifer Marshall became the lead investigator, and she went out and investigated everything: ghosts, vampires, lake monsters. And whenever she did UFOs, which was many times, she called me in. So I got to do Roswell, Area 51, and the one we're going to be watching tonight, the Phoenix Lights. So I thought, what better way than on the 28th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights than to watch the show. This is gonna be super fun. I'm gonna we're just gonna play it. Hopefully we won't get taken down immediately by YouTube, even though this video is private. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I'm gonna have my little head is gonna pop up in the corner of the screen while you guys are watching it. I might pause it and talk a little bit, you know, behind the scenes stuff of what happened when we were filming. Maybe expound a little on some of the segments. So as you guys know, a lot of these TV shows, they're in segments, you know. So we might stop between each segment, and I'll give you a little refresher and some reflection on our investigation and whatnot. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do tonight. So I do want to say once again hello to Ashley. Who else do we have here? Ashley, you're the only one in the chat right now, but I see we have more people watching. So don't be shy. Don't be scared, guys. Let us know in the chat if you're here. This will also live in perpetuity on Patreon and for our YouTube members. So if you're not watching this live, totally fine. You can watch it anytime you want at your leisure over on Patreon and for YouTube members as well. Yeah. So I guess without further ado, let's get to it. Let's see how this goes. Now, Suzanne and I are nervous. We've never done this before. We don't know how well the stream is going to go and all that, but we'll see. We'll see. So fingers crossed. You ready? All right. We're going to start with Mysteries Decoded, the Phoenix Lights. So give me one sec. Let me pull this up.
March 13th, 1997.
Hey, Sue! Take a look at this!
Oh my God!
A strange formation of glowing orbs lights up the night sky over Phoenix, Arizona.
I got 4 of them. Major sighting here.
Many observers claim to see an aerial craft that's more than a mile long.
These look different than anything I've ever seen before.
More than 20 years later, it remains the largest mass UFO sighting in U.S. history. with over 10,000 reported sightings in one night.
There was an intelligence behind it.
Now, new reports of strange lights over central Arizona have citizens on alert. Have America's most documented UFOs returned?
Technology that's not from here is a threat.
Are these lights from another world?
We're on a need-to-know basis, and we didn't need to know.
So we're talking aliens.
We're talking ETs.
My name's Jennifer Marshall. After serving in the U.S. Navy, I began a career as a private investigator. Now, I'm on the trail of something otherworldly, decoding the mystery of the Phoenix Lights. Sightings of unknown aerial craft are being reported somewhere in the world almost daily. Over the last 2 years, the number of sightings in the U.S. alone has doubled. These reports put one of the most mysterious UFO events back in the spotlight.
Isn't that weird? Look at that.
The Air Force claims that lights over Phoenix were aerial flares, but literally thousands of eyewitnesses reported seeing an illuminated V-shaped aircraft. I was contacted by UFO journalist Ryan Sprague, who says that there's new video evidence that may confirm that the lights being seen over Phoenix are not of this earth. Ryan and I previously investigated an alleged UFO that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, and claims of alien technology at Area 51.
Jen, hey, how are you?
How are you?
Oh, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Welcome
Wow.
to Phoenix.
Picturesque.
Okay, so this is my first pause, guys. This is South Mountain that we're on right now in Arizona, and the view from here was magical. You can see the entire city of Phoenix from here, and I just remember sitting there on that bench waiting for Jennifer to show up and just thinking how lucky I was. You know, cameras there or not, like the fact that I was in Phoenix to do an investigation of the Phoenix Lights was just it was a blessing, you know. And the more you do this stuff, the more you begin to reflect and savor these opportunities when they come, because they're very fleeting. And that's not just like being on television. That's whatever. I don't really care about that. But it's being able to to have the resources to do this sort of thing. And this is something I would never have the resources to do myself. So I guess I do have to thank television for affording me that opportunity to go here, to meet Jennifer and go on this investigation and meet the people who you're going to see in this upcoming investigation. So yeah, that's my little stint here before we really get into the nitty-gritty. So let's see what comes next. Isn't it? I was 12 years old when I had my own UFO sighting, and I was so afraid to talk about it back then for fear of ridicule. That's what happens with a lot of UFO witnesses. But that's what makes the Phoenix Lights so exciting. So many people have come forward to talk about it. This is the area where it happened. One of the biggest multiple witnessed UFO events of all time. Imagine looking up at the night sky for Comet Hale-Bopp, when your view of the stars is blocked out by a mile-wide spaceship silently hovering over the city. This is what thousands of Phoenix residents reported to the authorities on March 13th, 1997.
I mean, that is very curious.
What's even crazier is it might be happening again.
There's been a couple of cases in the news, right?
And there's video evidence of it. Take a look at these. These were released in 2019.
Okay.
You're seeing multiple lights, stationary. This is identical to what they saw in 1997. At first glance, they might appear to be just city lights, but a closer look shows that these sightings are too high above the Phoenix skyline. So this one, separate location. This recent video shows two sets of lights. This one freaked me out.
So how do these compare to the mass sighting in 1997?
First, you've got this huge lit up V-shaped object, which drifted toward Tucson. And then you've got this other one which just hovered high in the air in a boomerang shape. I've got a guy meeting us here who actually saw the Phoenix Lights in '97, and he told me it changed his life.
Okay, I'd like to talk to him.
Okay. Jason McClellan was just a teenager when he saw the lights.
Hi there, I'm Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer. I'm Jason.
Hi.
I grew
There he is, guys. Our good friend, our good buddy, Jason McClellan. If you saw on the podcast main feed today, I actually dropped an interview that I did with Jason about this, about him witnessing the Phoenix Lights. So yeah, he's one of my best friends, one of my closest colleagues in the UFO field. And this was, again, just one of those moments where I got to go see a friend, and it was all because of UFOs. So yeah, let's hear about Jason's experience in witnessing the 1997 Phoenix Lights. Pretty fascinating.
grew up in the Phoenix's far west valley, where I was used to seeing test flares dropped by the military. That night, I remember looking out the window and seeing this unusual set of lights in the sky. So I went outside, looked up, and pretty much directly over my head, I saw somewhere between 5 and 7 lights, sort of in an arc pattern, kind of like a boomerang, just hovering in the sky, completely motionless, not changing their size, their appearance, color, anything.
Now, what did you think that they were? Because you had never seen anything like that out there.
To this day, haven't seen anything like it since. I saw flares dropped all the time. What I saw that night was not flares.
What are we talking about size-wise?
You know, it seemed to be pretty wide. It took up a good chunk of the sky.
Did you think that they were connected to one craft or one entity, or did you feel like they were different and separate?
I couldn't tell if these things were connected, if they were a solid craft.
Based on laser surveying and witness testimony, investigators found the craft could have been over a mile wide. That's the same size as 21 747 airplanes stacked end to end.
What? That is massive. Look at that. I mean, I remember when they first sent me this image, they were like, "Do you think this looks pretty like powerful like to an audience?" And I'm like, yeah, that many airplanes, that was the size of this craft. I think so. So yeah, we'll get to it in a little bit, but you know, a lot of people saw the lights. Jason saw the lights. Another gentleman we talked to saw the lights, but someone else saw this actual solid craft. But enough teasing. Let's get back to it. And yeah, just this image alone just gives us so much perspective on how big the supposed craft was. Insane.
People who saw this thing claim to have been extremely close. And I know it affected a lot of people in the Phoenix area. It's still one of the most remarkable things that I've experienced in my life.
I find Jason to be an extremely credible witness. He doesn't really say what he thinks he saw. He's upfront that he doesn't know. Dr. Lynn Kitai has been documenting UFOs in Phoenix for 25 years, and she has new video footage of strange lights over the city. I really want to talk about the recent sightings in 2019. What do you know about those?
These orbs appeared again in the same location as 97, and I got video of that. We live high on a mountain in Paradise Valley. This was up close and personal, right outside our bedroom window. It was so otherworldly.
Now, was it light enough to ascertain if they were connected to some sort of craft?
No, it was pitch black in between, and they were very closely aligned. So whether it was part of a craft that I didn't see.
What sort of noise did you hear when this was going on?
Absolutely silent. No one heard noise. That was a little eerie for people.
Reportedly, there is a guy who was so close to the craft that he was maybe 50 feet away. Is this an urban legend, or does this person really exist?
Not an urban legend. A pilot who came forward anonymously has a great report to impart. And he just came forward for the first time last year after 22 years.
We'd love to meet with him.
Absolutely.
This former Air Force pilot is about as credentialed as it gets. He's also flown commercially and as a defense contractor, clocking more than 50 years in the cockpit. So it's understandable why he wants to protect his identity.
Yeah, that evening, my wife and I were driving. It was about 8:30 in the evening on the west side of town. It was very dark, really not much traffic at all. And then suddenly she says, well, what are those lights? And I lean forward in the windshield, and there are 5 lights in a V-shaped formation. I thought immediately, and I even said, oh, it's just a flight of fighters. I was thinking, well, they wouldn't be in a V-shaped formation. That's not the way you would recover fighters at night. That's a show formation. And then I noticed no navigation lights, no strobe lights, no landing lights. And so I asked my wife to just pull over. I just got out of the car. And then as it passed directly overhead, I realized I was not hearing any sound at all.
Is it possible in your mind that this could have been some sort of military prototype?
It doesn't make sense that it's a military craft. I mean, why would the military take a large, slow-moving, radar stealthy craft and put 5 lights on it and fly it over a population center to prove that it could be seen? I'm trying to explain it to myself in a sense. I'm not used to looking in the sky and not knowing what I'm seeing.
Do you believe that this would have to be extraterrestrial in nature, given that we don't have that technology?
Commercial break. All right. So, guys, let me know if you're watching, if you're able to comment in the chat. Suzanne and I are trying to figure it out. You should be able to. This is just an unlisted video. It's not like in a paywall sort of situation or whatnot. But if you are watching on Patreon, click like the actual video and go to YouTube, and you should be able to comment in YouTube as you usually do in our like live streams. But I might be wrong. I don't. I'm pretty sure I set everything up right. So yeah, just let me know. Let me know if you guys are able to comment in the chat. I hope you can. I want you to be a part of this. But yeah, so far we've met Jason, who saw the Phoenix lights. Now we're meeting with this anonymous Air Force pilot who saw the Phoenix lights as well. And this is a big one for me. This is a big one. I mean, to Dalen, hello, welcome. So happy you're here. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support and patronage. The fact that an Air Force pilot is coming forward to talk about this for the very first time on our television show, and that he says, I am used to seeing everything in the sky. This was not an aircraft that I know of. That was enough for me. So powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. All right, let's get back to Mysteries Decoded, the Phoenix Lights.
The largest mass UFO sighting in U.S. history occurred back in 1997, and some say those lights have returned to Phoenix. Can new evidence help us uncover who or what really visited the city more than 2 decades ago? Our investigation has led us to a pilot who witnessed the lights up close. He's agreed to share his story anonymously. Do you believe that this would have to be extraterrestrial in nature, given that we don't have that technology?
Well, that's a question that I'll absolutely dodge. You won't get me to say the term UFO because it's an emotionally loaded term that seems to bring skeptics immediately out of the woodwork to question the veracity of your sighting.
But you have decided to come forward anonymously. What is the reason for that?
There is some stigma that still gets assigned to you, even if you make a credible testimony about your sighting. I've always had fairly sensitive flying jobs since then. I just want to keep my identity quiet. Maybe someday I'll get grounded and can't fly, and then you can take pictures of my face.
I just want to pause one more time, guys. Now, I know they don't show the pilot's face, and a lot of people are like, come on, man. Like, we need like, the stigma's gone. The stigma's gone. But it wasn't. Still. It's still not for a lot of pilots. So I don't blame him for that in the least. I'm thankful and fortunate that he even considered coming forward. The thing about this guy, though, I could tell you this without giving away his identity or, anything like that. Um, he looked so much like Richard Doty that I thought I was getting pranked by Richard Doty. I'm not kidding you. I'm like, really? The disinformation agent, Richard Doty, who drove Paul Benowitz crazy? Get this guy off my set right now. But it was not him. It was not him. But yeah, I had a moment where, like, when I first met him, my heart dropped. I'm like, we just got punked. We just got punked by a disinformation agent. But that was not the case. This is a very genuine Phoenix Lights witness and former U.S. Air Force pilot. So, yeah, let's keep going.
Definitely intrigued by the fact that 20 years after the sighting, this experienced pilot still has no logical explanation for the lights he saw in the sky. Some of the most widely viewed videos of the Phoenix Lights were captured by a local resident. He's invited us to his mountaintop home on the north end of the city.
Mike.
Hi.
Beautiful up here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
You overlook the whole city. This must be the direction that you filmed that night.
Look at how bright they are in relation to city lights.
Take a look at this. There's a third one. Hey, Sue? All right, you tell me what it is. Hey, Sue!
Oh my God.
I hit pay dirt. Finally. This is South Mountain. That's the city in front of us.
Well, that is a totally different configuration than we've ever seen before.
Yep. And they all went on in a sequence, too. They're going off now, right?
Yeah,
one drop.
went off.
The middle one now.
There one. Oh,
Two
another
left.
one.
There's another one.
Various nights I've seen orange lights out in the distance, but they were far, far away. I've never seen any lights in this direction.
Were you already out there with your video camera, or you saw something and went to go get it?
No, I came out to check the yard before we go to bed. And when I walked outside, that's when I saw the bright lights. And it was farther to the east than I've ever seen it before. And they looked so close, almost coming at us. I actually thought that they looked like they were on this side of the mountains.
Now, there is a range on the other side of the mountains, a bombing test range for the Air Force.
There is.
Luke Air Force Base is a United States military base about 15 miles west of Phoenix. And from my military experience, I can tell you that flares are a common sight around bases and airfields, and they're often used in training exercises. Flares can be deployed from aircraft to illuminate a battlefield. There is a theory that the military was dropping flares in front of the mountain range.
I've seen flares before, and I know what they look like. These look like something that was quite different than anything I've ever seen before. That night, I did call Luke Air Force Base, and they denied seeing anything. When they drop flares, they are on parachutes, and they would all react differently as far as their drop rate, and the wind would affect it too. This was quite different because of the fact how it held its position.
So, yeah, this is Mike, guys. Mike filmed the famous Phoenix Lights video. I mean, besides Lynn Katai, her videos, this is probably even more famous of a video. Like every image, you Google Phoenix Lights right now, and a still of his video will be the first, second, third, 50th image that pops up. The big thing that stuck out to me, going to meet Mike at his home, he and his wife were amazing, great hosts, was getting a survey of the land. Like Jennifer and I went all around his property. We looked at this from every vantage point. We triangulated exactly where he was when he filmed it, in terms of nighttime versus daytime. And it was amazing. And the thing that really stuck out is when he just said, these flares are on parachutes. Like we see them, they drift with the wind and stuff like that. And that's exactly what Jason said. He saw the same thing as Mike, and they both said the same exact thing. We see flares all the time. This was not flares. So what was it? I don't know. but we're going to keep digging.
For quite a time over there. But here's the thing, the way I feel about the alien thing. It's possible, okay? We don't have really solid proof. One thing, everybody agreed, there was no sound. Even if it didn't have an engine that was quiet, it was silent, you'd hear rushing air.
Do you still have the original tape?
I do.
Would you be able to provide us with a copy of that?
I can, and thank you for being here.
I'm hoping we can get the footage in front of a forensic expert to determine if there are any abnormalities or hidden information. We now know that in 1997, thousands of Phoenix residents called authorities to get answers about the strange lights in the sky. To address their concerns, then Governor Fife Symington held a press conference where he tried to downplay the sighting by making it into a joke.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
You guys knew I was going to pause here. This is probably one of the most famous monkey wrenches in the Phoenix Lights incident, Governor Fife Symington. Now, I did a episode with Jason. Like I said, you can go into the podcast main feed right now and watch that. Or I did put it here on YouTube as well, where we talked about not just Fife Symington, but Frances Barwood, who was a big political figure at the time in Phoenix, in Arizona. And she was the one fielding a lot of the communication with these witnesses of the event and trying to get answers. And then in turn, she would give all of those reports and information to the appropriate people, and they would get their way to Fife Symington. So Fife Symington opened an official investigation to try to figure out what this was. And when it came time for a press conference about it, this is what he did. And people were pissed. I think Frances Barwood said her phone rang for hours and hours on end till like 3 a.m. People just furious with how the governor treated not only the incident, but basically saying that all of the witnesses of this thing were crazy and making it out to be more than it was. But as we heard from Jason, as we heard from Mike, who filmed it, this was a hell of a lot more serious than I think the governor of Arizona was taking it at the time. But that all changed with Fife Symington. He does have a redemption story, and I think we dig into it in this TV special. I'm not positive. We'll see. If not, we'll go over that in a little bit. But let's continue. Oh, Fife.
His chief of staff was dressed in an alien costume, then escorted out in handcuffs and named as the guilty party responsible for the lights. 10 years later, he admitted that he too saw a craft of unknown origin that he described as enormous and inexplicable, becoming one of the highest-ranking officials to report a UFO sighting. This validated the stories that many witnesses were apprehensive to share back in 1997 for fear of ridicule.
It's been hard for these eyewitnesses to discern if what they were seeing were individual lights or part of a larger craft, but not for David Parker, because it was directly above him.
This is right about where it happened. The freeway was under construction. It was almost like a country road back then.
Can you tell us what happened that night?
So as I was driving back west from Mesa to Phoenix, next to no other traffic, and when I got off the freeway very close to here, there was this massive boomerang floating in the air, coming towards me very slow.
Okay, so now we're moving to not just lights, but a solid boomerang craft. And as you're going to hear, welcome, Matt. Thanks so much for being here, man. Thank you. And thank you for your support, either on YouTube or on Patreon. I truly do appreciate it, buddy. I hope you enjoy this watch along with us of Mysteries Decoded Phoenix Lights on the 28th anniversary of the event. I think all across my social media, I put the 27th. Oops. Ryan don't math so good. So yeah, 28th. 28 years since this event happened. But Dave Parker remembers it just like it was yesterday. So you're going to hear from a witness who was so close to this craft that he could see the skin of it and was able to discern kind of what it was made of. It's crazy. One of the only witnesses I've been able to track down who actually saw the solid craft, but not only that, saw it from like 300 feet directly above him. Insane. I'm giving away too much. Let's get back to the show and hear from Dave Parker about what he saw.
Strange lights appeared above the city of Phoenix in 1997, mystifying residents and leaving an indelible mark on the community. Skeptics say the V-shaped pattern of lights were caused by flares, but those who directly observe the lights refute all earthly explanations.
When I got off the freeway very close to here, there was this massive boomerang floating in the air, coming towards me very slow, huge. Had multiple lights in the bottom. I slammed on my brakes. I got out of my truck. As it came, it just gently floated over me above my head. I could see the entire skin of the craft. It was like a gunmetal gray, slightly reflective, and it was covered with thousands of what looked like thumbprints, little oval divots all over the bottom side of it.
Now the size, Dave. What would you say about that?
I'm going to say from wingtip to wingtip of this boomerang-shaped craft, probably a mile to a mile and a half. I could see that there was multiple lights out of the bottom of it.
Dave, do you remember how many lights there were?
Probably 5 or 6 or so, maybe.
The craft itself, did that seem man-made, similar to anything that you know?
I have never seen anything like it. First of all, with the massive size that it was, and how it just drifted by, took its time. It didn't make any wind. It didn't blow my hair. It didn't make any sound.
Now, what made you look outside your window? Did you sense something? Did you see a shadow?
I think it was just the size of it and seeing it slightly move. It was like this massive, gentle giant.
Now, did you tell anyone about this afterwards or report it to anywhere?
The next day when I went to work, that's all I could talk about for days. I saw it, it went right over my head. Later, of course, our governor came out publicly and ridiculed anybody that spoke out about it. So I just kind of just shut up.
Do you think it's a possibility it could be a military prototype?
It's just the massive size. If it was tinier and smaller, I could probably wrap my head around that. But truly, it took up 70% of the horizon.
I have to ask, what is the possibility that you were just dreaming?
I had just gotten off work. I was driving my truck. It was way too early for me to be asleep. I don't drink. No, I was wide awake.
No substances whatsoever that night.
I'm a nurse.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I just want to thank you for your candor and for meeting us.
Thanks so much for meeting with me.
Thank you very much. He gave us such a detailed report. He saw that craft close up. So for me, there really is no other explanation other than what he saw is an unknown technology.
And if you go back to our previous investigations, it seems like this technology keeps being brought up again and again.
Exactly. Okay. Ashley brings up a good point. Dreaming? Come on now. No, okay. It's clear, like, who the Mulder and who the Scully is in this investigation. Jennifer is former Navy. Like, she is prosaic. She is, trying to figure out what this was. And with her knowledge of what the military might have or might not have, I don't blame her she keeps asking each witness, like, do you think it's possible this could be military? And of course, all three of the people so far have said no. Dave, Jason, and the former United States Air Force pilot. So again, Jennifer is skeptical. She is open-minded. She's empathetic, but I don't blame her. I mean, you just saw that little, I guess, sort of argument we had there. This investigation gets a little heated. I'm not going to lie. Like every investigation we clearly have different thoughts and ideas about what these things were. But I do remember this one was different. We really were button heads sometimes, and it's because we're both very passionate about finding the answers to this thing. Did we think we were going to? Maybe a little bit of us wanted to do that, but hey, if it's been a mystery for 28 years, what the hell did we think was going to happen? But we had some interesting stuff happen, as you will see. But let's get back to the show. And thank you, Ashley. Thanks for bringing that up. Again, it's clear who Scully and who Mulder is, right?
I think it's important to note that there were actually two events that are being conflated as one on March 13th, 1997.
Right. We've got the 8:30 event, which is what caused the widespread panic. And then we've got the 10 o'clock event that Mike Kristen filmed.
I'm still not convinced that these lights are extraterrestrial, so I'm bringing in another expert to talk me through the video. Brian Mahoney was a military pilot who flew helicopters during the 80s and early 90s and became obsessed with the mystery of the Phoenix Lights. I'm excited for someone with his insight and credentials to take a look at this footage. Brian, thank you so much for joining me. I have some footage that I'd love for you to look at.
Well, I'd love to see it, Jen.
The first one was taken March 13th, 1997. This video is of the 8 o'clock event, and at this time, there were so many people that saw it, they were calling 911, they weren't sure what was happening. The 10 o'clock event, there's definitely more footage from different angles, different people took it, but this is the sole existing footage from the 8 o'clock event.
Okay. So, this video had rarely seen the light of day before we broadcasted this. It had been online. I'm not saying we were the first to break this video or reveal it or anything, but it was very obscure. But this is, we believe, one of the only videos of the 8:30 event. And as you will see, as we keep analyzing this video, this was not flares. This was not, what many would consider just lights in the sky. This clearly was a V-shaped craft of some sort, at least in our opinion, my opinion, I should say. So yeah, let's see what this guy thinks about it. I'm interested. Now, I was not here for this interview with Jennifer. So this is kind of my first time hearing what this guy has to say about it. So I'm curious, like you guys.
I don't see how anyone could confuse this particular footage with flares. Flares are asymmetrical. So as the wind pushes the flares, one will go a little bit lower than the other. They're just not going to stay together in any kind of a line. Right there, from this perspective, they appear to be symmetrical. What else you got here?
10 o'clock, we have more footage because there were more people out.
Right now, I'm not looking at a symmetrical V that all these witnesses are talking about. So this could be the flares. The flare would extinguish, boom. Okay, there goes one. Let me see another one go, because there goes another one. Okay, yeah, this looks like flares, even though it's really far away.
Now, here's a third video, and this one was taken in 2019, and I want to get your thoughts on what this right here could be.
Oh, that's cool. 4 orbs, asymmetrical. Oh, here we go. This is what I find intriguing. This aircraft approaching. That to me looks like a rotary wing aircraft in absolute, very close to those orbs. So whoever is flying that, you track them down, they'll tell you. Now, there is a situation where the CIA or another one of our, secret organizations, they could have come in and put a cap on that right away. I'm really surprised that it's been a couple of decades that no one has leaked that information. I think the older people they want to have those sort of deathbed confessions. They want to be truthful. It seems to me like multiple events are happening here on one night. Otherwise, I'm telling you, there's some Air Force personnel that know what that V-shaped aircraft was.
At the time, what was the reporting procedure for that?
Military aviators are the most sober people you'll ever meet. I mean, we were constantly drug tested. We're constantly in the books. It's all think, don't feel. There is no emotion in a military cockpit. We call it Sierra Alpha, situational awareness. Military aviators have the best Sierra Alpha in the world. So you've got all these guys in Phoenix, in the military, in the aviation community. They either know what happened and they're not telling us, or something really did happen and we have to button this up. Because let's face it, technology that's not from here is a threat, and it's going to scare people.
Right.
It will change power structures of certain politicians and certain religious groups. It would be the event of the millennia. And now everyone's got a camera. I think in a few years, we're going to get a lot of answers.
Okay, commercial break. How's everyone doing? You guys doing good? Is that Kurt? Ashley asks. I know what Kurt Russell, I assume you're talking about. So the video he was looking at where the plane went under the lights, that was actually from 2019. That was the video that I showed Jen in the beginning of the episode, which sparked this entire investigation. I had been reached out to by several individuals in the Phoenix area who had sent me that video and 2 others. And they said, "Oh my God, Ryan, we think the Phoenix lights are back." So I was sort of freaking out. So I called Jen, and she in turn called our producers and stuff. And I'm like, yo, we might have an episode here. Like we could look at the original Phoenix lights incident and correlate that to the videos we're seeing in 2019. So yeah, that video you saw, Jen, was from 2019. It looked almost just as bad as the ones from 97 though. So it's clear video cameras haven't come as far as we think they have. But yeah, that guy made a lot of interesting observations. I really enjoyed his analysis of the video. So that's cool. That's cool. These things always go to commercial break at dramatic moments, and I can honestly tell you I have no idea what's next. So I will be just as surprised as you guys. Let's see what we got coming up next on Mysteries Decoded Phoenix Lights.
We're investigating the Phoenix Lights, 2 bizarre and unexplained sightings on the night of March 13th in 1997, which have been called everything from alien encounters to a mysterious government cover-up, even an elaborate hoax. Recent sightings of the lights are fueling speculation that the same V-shaped crafts have returned to Phoenix. Are the orbs simply military flares and not something extraterrestrial? The U.S. Air Force initially reported their planes were not in the air that night, but it was later revealed that a squadron from the Maryland Air National Guard was flying on a training mission. One of the pilots in that squad was A-10 pilot Jeff Booker. I want to find out if the lights at 10 p.m. were actually flares expended from planes that were sent out to distract from the lights at 8 p.m. Was the military trying to fool people into thinking that nothing happened at 8 o'clock? Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Now, you were actually in Phoenix the night of March 13th, 1997. How far advanced would you get your schedule as to when you were to be up in the air?
We make our schedules the night before.
And so if a flight is scheduled for 1900, would it be unusual for it to be moved up or moved back the day of?
Generally, the schedule is pretty firm because we have to coordinate with the people that own the range.
And so when you're doing these night missions, what is the purpose of carrying flares and how many do you carry?
Normally, in a combat scenario, you would carry 2 pods that mount underneath the wing. They're cylindrical in shape. You can load 8. The tactic would be to have somebody go into the target area, drop a couple of the Lu-2 flares, and then we would look for targets below, and we have 4 to 5 minutes before that flare burns out. When I left the range, I expended the rest of the flares that I had on board that night.
So, what would be the reason that a pilot would choose to deploy the remaining flares rather than bring them back to base after a night mission is complete?
It's a time consideration. It's easier for us just to expend those munitions and then to bring them back.
There is a conspiracy theory that says there actually was some sort of event, whether it was extraterrestrial or foreign military in nature, and then the National Guard deployed the A-10s as a way to kind of cover up or divert attention away from the first event. What are your thoughts on that?
A scenario that you're talking about, we would almost have to be on a strip alert of some sort, which we don't do, with the munitions loaded to make all that happen.
He seems credible, but I keep going back to the fact that the military first reported they didn't have any planes in the air that night.
I don't buy it. I don't buy this guy. I'm just going to say it. Like, he's very credentialed, obviously, but I don't know if conspiracy is the word I would choose that Jen used, but I think it was a cover up for sure. I do believe that they would send those warthogs up to drop flares later in the night to cover whatever it was, this solid craft, V-shaped craft that people saw. You know, classic shifting narrative. Matt Sherman says his tone is too even daily. Yeah, I feel like that dude was bought and paid for. Not by us. I think he was speaking on behalf of the Air Force. And he's probably been doing it for decades. And his reasoning for why that couldn't be the case just rang untrue to me. So yeah. Thank you for your service to that pilot. However, I do not believe him. I just don't, in terms of that the 10:30 or whatever event was not part of some sort of cover up. So yeah, just my personal opinion on that. Let's keep going.
Why would they lie if they weren't covering something up? It's clear the residents of Phoenix witnessed something unusual in March of 1997. I want to know just how long people have been seeing strange things in the Arizona sky. Is there ancient proof right here in Phoenix that extraterrestrials have been visiting the Valley of the Sun since the dawn of humanity? Petroglyphs appear all over the world in one form or another, as ancient people leave their mark upon rock faces, to tell a story, to mark a spot. Is it really possible that these symbols depict sightings of a higher extraterrestrial intelligence or alien presence?
Clifford Mahooty is a Zuni elder and shaman. He and UFO researcher James Keenan believe that Native American petroglyphs are evidence of extraterrestrial activity.
The petroglyphs talks about our history, people that were here thousands of years ago. But I think the most interesting one is how they dealt with the sky people. Aboriginal groups have a connection with what we call the Star Nation people, which are from different parts of the galaxy. The Indians have rock drawings about that. James is very familiar with this area.
Petroglyphs have other meaning based on past cataclysmic events, lost ancient history, and that's what I'm going to take you to go see now.
I've heard so many stories from Native Americans about the Star people coming here and communicating with them. So if there is ancient evidence here carved into the rock, we've got to see it. Okay, so this is clearly the most adventurous part of our episode, and I will tell you this. First of all, I'm getting a little misty-eyed because we lost Clifford Mahooty a few years back, unfortunately. So rest in peace, my friend. He was so awesome. I got to meet him several times before this show, once after it. But you see Clifford Mahooty, the dude is 83, I want to say, at this point when we're filming this. He had just had a kidney organ transplant 5 months prior to filming this. And you see us going down a hill, forget that. We had to hike up a hill for like a solid 45 minutes. Steep as can be. We had a ranger with us and everything. It was rough terrain to get up there. And I will tell you this, 83-year-old kidney recipient Clifford Mahudi beat me up that mountain. And he was not short of breath one bit. And I am just huffing and puffing. I was the last one to get up there. So I give that man all the credit in the world. This was my favorite part of the investigation. This was my favorite part of filming. I was like, literally, this episode hinged on if Clifford Mahudi could do it or not, for me personally. I feel like I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have the opportunity to go up to this mountain and look at these petroglyphs with this man. So yeah, I feel so deeply honored that he was there to do this, that he shared his culture and his Zuni tribe beliefs with us, and that we got to see these petroglyphs. Again, I just felt deeply, deeply honored. So let's get back to it. Star people.
This one's loose, so be careful here. The 4 corners symbol, right, Clifford?
Mm-hmm.
We got the cross,
right,
showing this being an important site, a landmark site for the Native Americans of the time. We have additional glyphs that show a natural ascension upwards. There's a lot of sightings that take place here of vortexes opening, UFOs flying into it.
In some cases, they actually show a UFO. The way that is taught us is that we got our ancestry directly from the star people.
I found it fascinating that Clifford brought up the star people and that these petroglyphs might have something to do with that.
There's still beings that are in these mountains.
And when it comes to the Phoenix Lights, we know that this is the area where people saw it and where they disappeared. So it only makes sense to me that if we have these vortexes where people say supposedly UFOs can jump in and out of, why not? Why couldn't it be this area?
Ryan makes an interesting point. UFO researchers swear by these cosmic forces to explain how crafts can travel such vast distances to visit Earth and then disappear within the blink of an eye. But I'm yet to be convinced.
There's a good possibility that the Native American communities witnessed this plasma event taking place, electrical arcing between the planet Earth and some other extraterrestrial object.
Those petroglyphs are amazing.
Yeah, they really show that something has been visiting us for a really long time.
So you think the spiral petroglyph could be symbolizing some sort of vortex?
Yeah, somewhere where these things, these craft can come in and out of.
Then we have to explain a wormhole. I mean, in Arizona, right here.
While Ryan looks into his wormhole theory, I'm going to try to track down more people who saw the lights with their own eyes.
I love that. While Ryan goes off and looks into his freaky ass wormhole theory, I'm going to go do actual investigation. I love that. I just snorted. Apologies. Things started getting a little heated between Jen and I at this point in the investigation, only because I clearly am much more open to the possibility of this being extraterrestrial, interdimensional something. I love the idea of the wormholes, the vortexes, the fact that it plays such a big part in Native American culture, and the fact that the lights, the Phoenix Lights, disappeared into that very area where the petroglyphs were. Like, how much more of a open and closed door vortex scenario do you need? That's where the Phoenix Lights went. Seen over Phoenix, and then they went to this mountain and disappeared. Either into or behind this mountain. So that's why I'm not giving up on my freaky ass wormhole theory. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, let's get back to whatever boring conventional stuff Jennifer's doing. No, I'm just kidding. We got to look at this always. And Jennifer is a master at that.
Our investigation into the Phoenix Lights has led us to witnesses whose lives were forever changed by this mass UFO sighting in March of 1997. Multiple accounts describe a mile-wide V-shaped craft that slowly and silently glided over the city. But how could such a large vessel suddenly appear in the middle of a metropolitan area and then vanish into thin air? One theory that's often brought up to explain the presence of UFOs is wormholes.
Witnesses of the Phoenix Lights have claimed what they saw disappeared in the blink of an eye. Mike, how's it going? I want to find out what could cause something like that. We know black holes exist. We've proven this, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I want to get your thoughts on wormholes. Is this something that could actually happen?
Wormholes do exist as solutions to Einstein's theory of general relativity, which are regions of very curved space-time that could connect two very widely separated paths.
So is it possible that something from another galaxy could use that to travel here in a shorter amount of time?
You either need gravity to be modified beyond our current understanding, or you'd need some very exotic negative matter that had negative mass and could hold open the throat of that wormhole.
And that's not something we're able to harness or understand.
Not only do we lack the technological ability to create such a thing, we don't even know if the laws of physics permit it. And then in principle, what it would look like if the light was passing through that wormhole, you'd be seeing stuff coming from the other side, which wouldn't be disguised at all. It seems like it would stick out like a sore thumb.
So this would be very noticeable.
Yes, both wormhole travel or other alien visitations would probably leave so many unmistakable signs that we can safely kind of rule them out.
Boo! I got shot down pretty damn quick, but I'm glad I went and met with a physicist and talked about it. But hey, I mean, it's one physicist's theory, right? Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, that's cool. Ashley says, I live like 45 minutes away from Dallas. Can I go and talk to this nerd about wormholes? Probably. I'll try to get you his information if you want to. This university was so cool. I was only there for like, I don't know, span of 24 hours. I'm not kidding you. They literally flew me in from New York City to Dallas, to meet with this guy, and then flew me back to New York. If I told you guys the logistical nightmares that filming these television shows can be, it's just crazy. It's like in movies when they say they have to do reshoots. So they bring actors back after they think a movie's done. And they're like, shoot, we need something to connect this to this. We need to get the actors back and film some additional stuff. This was one of those situations where we thought we were done, but we're like, Ryan's really leaning into this wormhole thing. We should probably try to either back that up or disprove it. So they had me do this. And I will say, I was deathly ill during this interview, and that morning, very sick. I could barely get out of bed. But again, I was there to do a job, to do an investigation, and we only had limited time with this guy. So I sucked it up. I went there. I may have had to have run to this university's restroom a few times. But yeah, there's the gritty behind the scenes for you guys. But we got it done, and might not have been the answer I wanted, but maybe it was the answer I needed for the investigation. But let's keep going. Let's keep going.
At this point, I still can't explain the lights that appeared over Phoenix at 8 p.m. But so far, the proof to support involvement from extraterrestrial beings just isn't there. Hopefully, our next witness can provide more answers.
He's got cameras set up all over his house.
Some people would think that's paranoid. I think that's smart.
I mean, he's constantly monitoring the skies of Phoenix. So if anyone knows what's going on up there, it's going to be him.
Come on in, guys. Come on in and have a seat.
We're going to be talking to Tom King. He's a witness to the Phoenix Lights. He can help us make sense of the two separate sightings in 1997.
Wow, look at this setup.
I feel like we're in a battle station.
Yeah, this is my control room where I monitor the skies in Arizona.
So what are we looking at here?
This is the video that I recorded on March 13th, 1997. Over here is the video that was shot by Mike Christian up in Moon Valley. And over here is a video shot in Apache Junction. I spent a great deal of time taking out all the camera movement and I stabilized it.
Now, were these for the 8 o'clock sighting or the 10 o'clock?
These are the 10 o'clock event.
I got 4 of them. Major sighting here.
It was pitch black out there. And unless you lived in an elevated position or you had a house on a mountain or you were farther north, you couldn't see these lights at all.
So there are some people who believe that the 10 o'clock event was basically the military trying to cover up whatever happened at 8:30.
That's the million-dollar question here. Maybe somebody just heard about the 8:30 event and told somebody, hey, launch everything you got. And that created the array of lights that I filmed, that Mike filmed. And if that's the job they intended to do, it worked. Let's look at the only footage that exists of the 8:30V. The boomerang that flew from northern Arizona down to Tucson. We have to put on the table that this is not from this planet. 8:30 event will never be explainable. The sheer size of this thing was gigantic. It didn't make a sound. It was stealth. It didn't show up on radar. Almost everybody I met that saw that 8:30 event, it changed their life. They became believers. Something from another world came here to visit us. I've never met anybody in my life who saw something that was military and had a religious experience from it and changed the entire course of their life from then on out. But that happened to thousands of people on March 13th.
Before Ryan and I
Hell
review
yeah.
what our separate investigations found, I thought it would be helpful for us to get a forensic analysis of the Phoenix Lights videos. I reached out to audio and video expert Jennifer Owen to see what she can find.
Well, there's a lot that I see, and I'm excited about this phenomenon because it's pretty unusual to get footage from different people all of the same phenomenon at the same time. But as far as the audit trail and the reliability of the audit trail, we don't know because we're working on the VHS, pass through how many hands, uploads, downloads, but that does not mean that these videos are not reliable. Well, here's the exciting part. The conspiracy theorists are thinking these videos show a new type of aircraft, even though I cannot definitively say what it is. But without a doubt, these particular videos, even without an audit trail, they are not manipulated.
So dissipating seems to be the common denominator, I think, with all of these.
I don't believe those to be a craft. I think that the orbs are dissipating because they're flares.
Okay. Now we have several of the 10 p.m. videos, but this is the only video that we've been able to find from around 8 p.m. So what do you make of what we could be seeing in this one?
Now this one I'm excited about. Now we're seeing the sky, now we're seeing mass. The power of video processing is now we can go frame by frame. And in doing so, we can see it's definitely a singular mass flying object.
This looks like a perfect V shape to me.
It is. So it's geometrically sound. We can see the sky, but what about right here? There's nothing in between this mass right here. So that would lead us to believe that this is an aircraft.
What do you guys think? That video, I mean, I know it's super grainy. I know like pareidolia can play in a effect. I know it could be anything, but I mean, it's all we have to rely on for the 8 p.m. event. And the fact that it's V-shaped, boomerang shaped, and that's what Dave saw close up. That's what hundreds others saw earlier in the night. I don't know. I find it convincing. I do. Let's keep going.
We're meeting with Jennifer Owen, an audio and video expert. She's confirmed that none of the footage has been manipulated or animated. But can she tell us if what we're seeing is just lights or something else?
We can see the sky, but what about right here? There's nothing in between this mass right here. So that would lead us to believe that this is an aircraft. This is a pretty big aircraft that holds its shape and these 5 lights moving as a singular unit throughout the video.
Jennifer, there have been many reports of a triangular-shaped craft. So I'm wondering, in this 2019 video that I sent you that was taken near Albuquerque in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, what are you seeing there?
Let's take a look. We'll just scroll in a little bit. Looks familiar, right? We're seeing something very similar in structure and framework to what we saw in 1997.
Is there anything else you can make out to discern what type of aircraft these could possibly be?
Well, this happened both around military bases. If we're judging by 1997, my best guess at that particular time, if it's not otherworldly, it would have to be a B-2 bomber.
I think there is a good chance that this is some sort of experimental aircraft, maybe the B-21 Raider. It seems to fit these specifications of what we're seeing.
It may very well be.
We don't know because it hasn't been released yet.
What I definitively think is they're both aircrafts. Maybe it was your typical flying exercise that, once again, we're on a need-to-know basis and we didn't need to know.
If we go back to the beginning, right? March 13th, 1997, the sun set at 6:35 p.m. in Tucson that night. So that means the planes were in the air between 7:35 and 8:35. They were most likely already in the air when the boomerang was seen over Phoenix.
Okay, so you think that all of this could be attributed to flares then, even the boomerang?
No, I don't think that everything was flares. Let's go to the videos, right? The videos we know are not doctored. Those videos are real.
Right, there's no CGI, they're completely authentic.
Then we have our A-10 pilot, Jeff Booker. He was there that night. He was flying, he was in the air, and he said he dropped flares.
I'm willing to admit that everything seen at 10 o'clock, the videos, everything reported was most likely flares. I'm totally open to that. But for me, I keep going back to that first event where all of these witnesses said they saw a solid craft. And not only that, the flight path through Phoenix, through Tucson, that's not flares, Jen. That's definitely not flares.
So if there was a craft, where did it go? It just disappeared?
I don't think it disappeared. I think it's possible it went somewhere else. Look at Clifford, who showed us the petroglyphs. These swirls could represent something like a wormhole, a way for some other intelligence to get here, bend space and time.
We don't know for sure what that particular symbol is, so I can't necessarily get on board with that. But one thing that has stuck out to me during this whole investigation are 2 witnesses in particular. The pilot who wants to remain unidentified and the nurse, Dave Parker, that we interviewed at night. You know that I'm not easily swayed by witness accounts, but with these 2, they were so close to what they saw. They were so close to the craft. They remembered it like it was yesterday. They have nothing to gain. As a matter of fact, the pilot has a lot to lose by coming forward.
Everyone does. Anyone who reports these UFOs is ridiculed. They're called crazy. But I mean, look at the witnesses we spoke to during our Area 51 investigation. Their reports mirror what we're seeing in Phoenix, the same shape of the craft, the same way it maneuvered. I mean, what I saw when I was a kid was exactly what these people are seeing.
All of this leads me to believe that it has to be some sort of experimental military prototype. It has to be. Now, why they would choose to fly it over a heavily populated area, I can't tell you. And I will say the fact that the same lights are being seen 2 decades later is puzzling to me. The 2019 event really raises questions.
So if it was an experimental craft, though, where did that technology come from? When we have even pilots coming to us saying the technology it represents is far more sophisticated than anything we have, where does that leave us?
I know what you're getting at, and I can't say that I know for a fact that this was reverse engineered.
So I understand why these people can't explain what they're seeing, but they know it wasn't flares and they know it wasn't a plane. We're dealing with something so far beyond that that I don't know where that technology could possibly come from.
But the question remains, where did that craft go? If it did in fact exist, where did it go?
Well, there we go, guys. That was Mysteries Decoded, Phoenix Lights Incident. What do you think? Are you with Jen? Are you with me? Are you somewhere in between? Like we kind of left it there. Isn't that how it always goes, right? The mystery continues somewhere in the skies. Jen brought up something at the end there that I kind of glossed over in my response to her. Why would they, if this was military, why would, and it was experimental and it was secretive, why would they fly it over such a highly populated area? If it was military, why wouldn't you try to fly it over a populated area? If this is the time when stealth is really coming into its own, I mean, it'd been around for a while. I mean, we were testing the B2s and stuff much earlier than 97. Could this have been a way to test how good the stealth was? I mean, stealth craft fly very low. That's the point, to stay under the radar. That's literally what the term means. So if I'm going to play Jennifer Advocate, could this have been a test to see how many people would report actually having seen this thing earlier? 8:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30. Let's see how good our stealth technology is with this new thing we've been testing. Let's see how many reports come in from the public about having seen this. But on the other side of that, look at someone like Kurt Russell, the actor, the first private pilot to report the Phoenix Lights, and how close he was to that thing, those lights or whatever it was. That's dangerous. And for the many other flights around Sky Harbor and all the other, military sites out there and, private planes. I mean, it would be extremely dangerous to test something out there over a populated city where there's going to be planes out there. So that goes against that theory, sort of. But yeah. I always go back to the earlier event for me personally. The later event, even maybe Mike's video, Tom King's videos from the later event, easily could be some sort of flares. But whose and why? Still don't buy what that one pilot told Jen. That, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's it. That's what we did. We dropped flares, but it wasn't part of a cover up. Like we were just unloading them, make our plane lighter or something. Like, give me a break, dude. So yeah. Again, like maybe we didn't find the answer to the Phoenix Lights, but the fact that it's still happening up until 2019, I'm still getting reports. I mean, I'm gonna rope her in. Suzanne saw some crazy lights 2 days ago, 1 day ago. Do you want to come in or no? It's up to you. Okay. All right. She's coming in. Hello, hello. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Hi, how's everybody?
Hello. Everyone, welcome.
My sweet husband. We're all crammed in a crazy
Hi,
hotel
Bill.
room in Arizona.
Of course you're in Arizona.
Of course,
How
of
appropriate.
course.
So
Yeah, no kidding.
let's talk a little bit about let's go most current. What did you guys see last night? What's happening?
Okay, this was crazy. As most people know, we live part-time in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and part-time in Memphis, Tennessee. And so we've been at the Santa Fe house for a week or so, although we're in Arizona right now. But late night before last, I was turning off lights, headed to bed, and I was checking one of the kitchen doors. Or the whole back of the house faces the mountains in Los Alamos. And so it's just natural for me to look as I walk by. Stunning mountains, beautiful view, even at night, and the Milky Way's out there. But I was checking doors. So I checked the first door, and then I don't know how to describe this, but all of a sudden I knew in my head this message of, we're here. And I went cold and I stopped. I was like reaching for the handle on the door to lock it, and turned around, looked out the window a little, a little more closely from the dark, blocking out the inside lights. And I didn't see anything, but I walked quickly to the big doors that opened to the back patio. And there in the sky were 3 or 4 orbs. And I only know how to describe them as dancing. And Bill, sitting behind me, got to see them too. I scared the poor man to death because I went flying into the bedroom where he was sound asleep, screaming for him to come here, come here, come here. But anyway, they were, I would call it like dancing. So they weren't doing that crazy right angle stuff at all.
Yeah.
But they were moving in shapes that to me could not have been conventional craft. And so, we've had all this stuff about psionics, and I thought, well, just try, right? I mean, what's the harm? I guess abduction could be the harm, but anyway, yeah. So
go to 0 to 10 in an instant. Yeah.
Exactly, and now I live on another planet. But where is she for the live stream? She's been gone for a week. No one knows. So I just thought to it, is this really you? And the 3 lights went blink, 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 blink to me in unison. And I just kind of sucked all the air in from the room. I was just like stunned. And so I thought back to it. Thank you. I'm so honored to get to see you. I need you to wait 1 minute. My husband's going to want to see you. Of course, I scared him to death, but he did get to see them. And we watched it come and go for a while. And then as quickly as it happened, I had this absolute knowing that they were gone. It was over. And they were gone. They were gone. I waited and waited and watched and watched and watched. Bill gave up, went back to sleep. But no, they were gone. So that just happened directly over Los Alamos lab.
Wow. Well, I mean, I got my first book back here. My first chapter of my very first book, Suzanne, is literally titled Dancing in the Night Sky. And
really?
It was a guy named Damien John Knott in Australia, in Sydney, who saw something strikingly similar to what you and Bill saw. And he described it the same way. It was almost like a intelligent, choreographed dance that these lights were doing. And not only that they were doing, but they were doing solely for you.
That's what it felt like in the moment.
Yeah. And, that's not to say other people didn't see it, but these things are so deeply personal. I mean, look at the individuals we interviewed in the Phoenix Lights thing. And, I had Steve Berg on my 400th episode that'll be airing this upcoming Monday. And he was talking about how a lot of these things seem to be performance. Like
it felt like it was literally showing me graceful motion that it could do. That's how it felt.
Wow.
Also had
you had like the psychic connection to it too.
And a weird instantaneous connection. That's how it started. Like I was just reaching for a door handle and boom, went cold. I don't know. Wild.
I gotta get you on the Skywatcher team over there with the egg boys. Yeah.
Somebody needs to. We have seen things before, never anything as dramatic as this, but always over Los Alamos. So I'm not sure what that is. Los Alamos is a crazy vibe place.
I can
you
imagine.
can pick up the vibe of Los Alamos 2 or 3 miles outside of town. It's just different. And I don't know what that is, but it is odd. Of course, it's probably not helpful that it's all covered up in signs that say, no trespassing, deadly force will be immediately used. We're not even going to warn you kind of thing. So I'm sure that's part of what makes it feel weird to me. But
well, especially the baggage too Los Alamos has with the Roswell incident and everything too. So, I mean, it's just all this big melting pot of ufological lore
bombs
happening.
And UFOs.
Yep. Bombs and UFOs. They scarily go together much too often.
They do. I do wish some of those groups like Skywatcher would set up over there, though, because I think it's probably fertile ground. But I also, and there are so many UFO events in New Mexico that there's also really good reporting and there's very little stigma around it. So as soon as I realized, okay, they really, really are gone, I sat down and started looking to see who was reporting, and I did it the next morning. No one else reported it. Not at the time, not as of yesterday.
So I'm going to play the obnoxious skeptic to
Okay.
you right now. Why didn't you film it? Why didn't you take pictures?
I'll tell you exactly why. And trust
Yeah.
me, I thought about it. And I was thinking about you because I thought my first thought was that you and Dalen needed to see this. I wish that you two could watch what we were watching. But I also had the distinct impression that it would stop. And I literally made a choice in that moment not to go for the phone. I chose to get Bill to come see it.
That's
and,
fair.
And I made a choice. Yeah, I just made a choice.
You went on impulse and
did.
what you thought was right. And again, that happens so many times with these things. That's why
You do have to make a choice. If that phone's not right in your hand, I try so hard for it not to be.
Like, do you want to document this for the public to scrutinize, or do you want to experience it in the moment like it should be? And I think you
I
made
wanted to experience it, and Bill,
Yeah.
I wanted Bill to experience it.
Exactly. I think you guys made the right choice. Yeah.
It was
So
cool.
in relation to what you saw, that was last night?
Night before last.
The night before last. Okay. In relation to what you saw and what you saw play out in the Phoenix Lights investigation we did, what do you think after all the theories we posed in this episode, the two different events, which makes this case even more hard to uncover, to decode the mystery, I guess? What do you think? Do you think one event was ET, one was military, both are ET, both are military? Like, where do you stand on the Phoenix Lights, if I have to ask a very big sweeping question?
Yeah. Well, let me just start with what I don't think. I don't think that was flares. I think that's foolish. And I also think the government didn't do themselves or us any favors with the whole stunt about the alien responsible for it. And those two concepts together make me so suspicious. And I think they had a double event. I suspect it was a double ET event. I suspect it may have even been continuing in the interim between the two videos. I would love to talk to those videoers, especially about, tell me, when you watch those videos, it's very hard to see the shapes they're talking about.
Yeah.
But they know what they saw. And of course, you and I feel much differently about experiencers than what the other investigator did. People know what they saw. They know. And I would love to hear more about, tell me what you saw. I mean, I heard the one description about he was close enough to see the skin, that sort of thing from the other videos, right?
Crazy.
But, Ryan, 10,000 Phoenicians saw these lights, 10,000 people.
That's insane.
It's insane. And so I think it was Dalen who said if they were doing a stealth operation, they failed.
Failed miserably.
They failed because here we are today, 30 years later.
Ashley came in swinging. Suzanne, are you sure you weren't dreaming?
I promise. I was standing on my feet trying to lock the back door.
So I also want to give a shout out to Jennifer Marshall, my co-investigator partner. Like, it's clear, like, they want drama in a show, especially on the CW network. Like, that's what they're known for. And there has to be conflict and debate in a show like this. Otherwise, like, what's the point? So, like, it's clear that they kind of wanted us to lean one way or the other. But I will tell you this, like, there have been times where Jennifer and I have gone out on an investigation and we've almost switched roles, where I became much more skeptical of an investigation, the Area 51 one to be specific. And she came out on the other side. And that had to do specifically with Bob Lazar. I grew much more skeptical of Bob Lazar and his claims during my personal investigation into the case. And Jennifer came out being like, oh my God, I think I kind of believe this guy. So that was interesting.
Very. And I'm kind of in the middle. I started out skeptical, but then, I have paid such close attention to David Grush and his lawsuit and his statements. And I don't even know how many spreadsheets we have, but of his testimony. But after kind of living through the Grush stuff, I think I'm back on board with Lazar.
Really? Okay.
I think they may have done exactly to him what they did to Grush, but at that time you could get away with it. You could we didn't have cameras in our pockets. We didn't have, YouTube to talk about it. We didn't have the ability to contact people via social media to talk about it.
Very
So,
good points. Yeah.
I switched roles.
I love it. And you know what? That's the beauty of all this. Like we can always change our mind. And one of the first things Peter Robbins, my UFO mentor, my UFO Mr. Miyagi, I guess, taught me was never be afraid to be wrong and to
Right.
change your mind. And I took that to heart. There are many UFO researchers that go to the grave not accepting that they were wrong on something. Stan Friedman, to be specific, not to say anything bad about him, but he went to his grave saying the Majestic 12 papers were real. And we know for a fact definitively at this point that no, they were not. At
weren't.
least
They weren't.
most of them were not real.
Well, that's the way I feel about Lazar, is that I can't know for sure whether he's right or they were right, but what I can do is open my mind about it, right? Instead of a shutdown on, he's just gaming everybody. My mind's back open.
Yeah. Well, and there's a new documentary coming out on Lazar. It's called S4, I believe. Yeah. So
ready.
That'll be interesting. We also had the release, or I guess the premiere of that new Age of Disclosure documentary.
Oh, yes.
Featuring
yes.
over, what was it, 12 or something, 14 high level people. And
Right.
I haven't really looked into it. I've seen the trailer, but yeah, that's coming out too. So there's a lot going on, a lot to unpack as we move forward with a lot of this topic. But yeah. Dalen said everybody needs to get back to living in the moment, not behind a screen. I agree, as we are both coming to you on a screen.
On the screen.
But I understand what she's saying, and I'm trying to do that more nowadays. If I go to a concert, I try not to pull my phone out and record it, or I went
if you
to
do it quickly, put it away, and then experience it.
Exactly. What was it? When I was in New York recently with my dad, we went to see WWF SmackDown live in Albany, and 1,600 people, 16,000, excuse me, people have their cell phones out recording a live event, and I'm just looking around. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be one of them.
Not pulling it out.
Nope.
Yep.
And we were so close to the action, so close to the ring.
Right.
I snapped a few videos and photos because I host a wrestling podcast.
Exactly.
I got to do something, get some content there. But at the end of the day, I just sort of sat there and had the time of my life. My dad was with me, which was absurd that he was with his 40-year-old son at a pro wrestling
Great, though.
taping.
He's such a good sport.
He was the best. And then I sat next to a girl who was a more rabid fan than I was. And we became fast friends, and we were cheering and booing and doing all the dances. And I just felt so in the moment, and it felt so refreshing to not be trapped behind that thing, recording something that isn't going to have an impact on people watching it like it did when you were there. And the reason I bring that up, Suzanne, is because it's the same with these UFO videos. What you're seeing in these videos is nothing compared to what that individual actually experienced. And that's why it's so hard to take videos as good, solid evidence, because you can have a life-altering, profound experience that was magical and tell me that, and then you show me your video, and it's just a dot in the sky that could be anything.
Yes.
And that's not your fault.
Rich texture that the experiencer gets that just doesn't translate into the video, but it probably will transfer for people like Skywatcher. But when they're adding the sensor data to the video, to the infrared, and they can build a very different picture. So I don't think we're very far from being able to get closer to experiencing it, but there's never going to be anything like in that moment.
Yeah. We're going to get to the virtual reality UFO sighting where we'll be able to see it, feel it, smell it, hear it. It's going to be amazing.
Right. Exactly.
let me see. We got a couple comments here, and then we'll start to wrap things up. We've gone way over. Matt Sherman says, I try to avoid even taking photos on hikes because I feel like my phone keeps me from really being in the moment and enjoying nature. Exactly, buddy.
It's so
And
true.
yeah, and that's what
And
I
they
think
become
UFO sightings.
leashes.
Right.
They
Yeah.
become leashes. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And I think UFOs do that. They remind us to just live in the moment, experience us and what we're trying to tell you, and just live in the moment, man.
That was
Or
the other
woman.
message I sent back the other night was, I sure hope you're here to help, and I sure hope we're helpable.
Yeah. I hope so too. We
Yeah.
could damn well use it right about
We
now.
can really use it right now.
Oh man. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap things up here.
All right.
This was amazing. It went pretty much seamless, so we'll have to
We
do
did
this
it.
again. I've
For
got
two
two
people who
other
didn't have a clue what they were doing.
right. I know. I know. Thank you guys for bearing with us. Well,
Yeah.
hey, we should do this again. I've got an Area
Oh,
51
great.
episode. I've got and our original Roswell episode. So that would be a lot
Okay.
of fun.
Let's do them.
So we'll do that in the future with our Patreon subscribers who are here and our YouTube members. And I just want to give you guys a shout out again. Dalen, Ashley, Matt, those of you who are in the chat now, thank you so much. I know we have others watching that aren't chiming in, but that's totally okay. I want to thank all of you. This will live on Patreon in the future. So I want to thank everyone who watches this in the future as well. Again, all of your support just means the world to me, guys. Some of you have been patrons for almost 7 years at this point since I started the podcast. And I can't even say, like, convey how much that means to me that people would go to work and use their hard-earned money, put some aside to help us continue what we do here. So thank you.
I think it
Thank
also
you.
speaks really well of your work too, that they're willing to do that.
Oh, well, hey, I'm nobody without this community and the other researchers who inspire me. So thank you, Suzanne, and thank you for all your work as always,
Sure.
and for
Sure.
your impromptu hop in here to tell your own second witness account.
I know. My gosh.
Yeah.
We're rolling.
Cool. All right. Well, if anyone wants to reach out to you, if that's possible,
Sure.
where might they do that?
Facebook's best, Suzanne Westerman Landers, and then Instagram is, I think, see Suzanne Landers, but you can find me. Just it's those three words, some combination of that.
Well, I'll put a link.
I'm
in
also
the
on
show
Blue
notes.
Sky, but I don't check Blue Sky very often.
I'm getting
I'm
better.
on Twitter, but it's awful. Yeah.
I know. I'm getting better at the Blue Sky thing. It's getting a little better. Oh, Dalen says she's down for a 51 in Roswell. Boom.
Excellent.
We'll
We
do
should
it.
do those.
We'll do it. Yeah. And then maybe we should do like a documentary or something. Or I don't know. Like, hey, we didn't get a copyright strike yet for this one.
Not yet. We're still rolling.
We're still rolling.
I was running that
somehow.
banner as often as I could.
Oh, you did. Thank you. Awesome, guys. Well, once again, thank you for joining us for this watch along to Mysteries Decoded Phoenix Lights. Again, 28 years ago today, as you're watching this, if you're watching this live, the Phoenix Lights incident remains a mystery to be decoded. So I'm not done. I'm still talking to all these witnesses. Jennifer and I still text back and forth if we have any developments. We've had people reach out to us after having seen the episode. So who knows? Maybe we'll do a part 2 in the future of Mysteries Decoded. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. So again, thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining Suzanne and I. Yeah, we'll see you on Sunday for a live stream. I will be doing a live stream, and then we'll see you this upcoming Monday for our 400th episode of the Somewhere in the Skies podcast. I cannot believe it.
Craziness.
Man. Oof. And it's
Well
a doozy. It's a doozy. Many of you probably already saw it. We did live stream it, but if you just listen to the podcast, we will have Jason McClellan, Steve Berg, and Rob Christofferson, 3 UFO podcasting powerhouses, joined me for an awesome UFO chat for my 400th episode. So be on the lookout for that as well. Like, subscribe, go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review on the podcast if you can. I would certainly appreciate that. And yeah, do all those YouTube-y things as well. But that's going to do it, guys. So I will leave you, all of my patrons and YouTube members, with our mantra, as always. Keep your feet on the ground, but never stop searching. Somewhere in the Phoenix skies. Later.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.